Welcome to another segment of Marketing with Janet Fenner and Yaron.
Good afternoon, good morning.
All right, great. So today, Yaron, I think we are going to talk about how to leverage the ecosystem. This is something really important that a lot of people don't take enough advantage of. So we're going to talk about how to leverage it as a company and then also how to leverage it personally. So let's get started and let's do a little chat about the ecosystem and what makes up the ecosystem and who makes up the ecosystem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I think, first of all, when we look at the ecosystem in the industry, I think I like to look at it from the top, meaning, okay, from the customer, right? Because I think at the end of the day, I can create as many partnerships as I want with as many manufacturers, but if there's no real benefit here to the end user that is actually using the product, I think the ecosystem, I think when we look at that, and I think the ecosystem is really a combination of different technologies via hardware, software, applications, and others that really better and creates a better experience to the end user at the end. And I think done right, a sales individual can really, really benefit from working the ecosystem and creating the right partnerships with the right companies. Specifically, as someone who spent most of his career in startups, it's a very, very good way to get, I call it to ride on the elephants, right? Because usually you're the small guy, you have a really cool technology, it might be disruptive, it might be new, it might be cool, but there are always the guys in the industry that have more connections, have more channels, have more customer relationships. So I think by knowing how to utilize that and by knowing how to get into the right programs with the right people, you can do very well.
Yeah, no, I agree. So our channel, if you look at it, we've got an ecosystem made up of manufacturing companies. Then you have your rep firms. Then you have your dealers, installers. You have entertainers, consultants, A&Es. Then you have your customers, end users, and that basically is our channel. So, we're looking at different areas of how to go ahead and leverage one another. And I think mostly, I would like to address more the dealers, installers, consultants, companies within this ecosystem, because they need to really take advantage of what they bring to the market and what they give. Being that they represent so many different products, and there's a lot of products in our market, they would create a loyalty to the manufacturing companies. So to rep firms, they really create a loyalty because they go back to that well and they sell that product. They like the product, they go with it, they stick with it, and they move it forward. However, a lot of times, a lot of the manufacturing companies, what they do is they take on more and more dealers or more and more companies, and they build their portfolio on it. Oh, we're going to get another one, we're going to get another one, we're going to get another one. However, the way I see it sometimes is they're not using that network to the best of their ability. Meaning, kind of like, you can look at it this way. You can go ahead and start hoarding all this money. You know what I mean? You can say, oh, another dollar, another dollar, another dollar. You can take that dollar and you can stick it under your mattress, and it's not going to do anything for you. But it's going to be safe, but it's not going to do anything for you. If you take it and you invest it, it's going to do something for you. So as far as having rep firms, manufacturers invest in their partner companies, it's going to bring them loyalty and have them coming back to place their orders tenfold. So you take distributors, buying groups that are in our market, and you see what they're doing. They have another dealer come on, they have another product line come on. If they don't take that product line and invest in it and put it out there, because take a look, marketing. You have this company, this dealer integrator company, and it's got X amount of employees, whether it's 2 employees, 10 employees, 50 employees, 1,000 employees. If that distributor were to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and leverage you guys, and we're going to go ahead and give you a little bit of manufacturing, MDF money, some marketing funds, and say, we're going to give you $1,000 a month, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, you can create an entire social media campaign. Now, that distributor is getting that company and their employees and their network to shout it on the rooftops and saying, hey, here's who we have and here's what we do. That little $2,000 opens up an entire network of business for them that I don't really think manufacturing companies, all of them, really leverage those companies to the best of their advantage. Do you know what I mean?
So yeah, so I've been there, right? Especially with distributors, and it's very, very hard to I'd call distinguish yourself within the distribution channel, right? Because they carry any product in the market. When you look at sales strategy in our industry, at least, I'm a believer that less is more in every city and every. So when we look at a new market, right? A new geographical market, forget not even a vertical market right now. So you can take an approach and say, okay, I'm going to give the product to anybody who wants it, basically, and flood the market and have 20, 30, and that works for probably if you sell widgets. I was always more of, I'm going to find the 3, 4, 5, depending on the size of the city, population, how much business is done in the city, the main industries, the economy. So it will range anywhere from like 2 to, let's say, 7. But those guys, I'd really put programs to work and build that ecosystem, right? And same thing, by the way, for consultants, A&Es, whatever we call them today, and same as with others. Now, with distribution, I'd love to hear your take because you've worked with larger companies, and I've always got lost with distribution, right? So even if you pay the MDF money and you put your page 79, you have a little thing that puts your product in it, but I was never really able to get mindshare. So most of my money from distribution sales would come from fulfillment, which is great because it's a bank, because they always pay their bills compared to a lot of the smaller dealers that you have to chase. And so I've always used it as a financial tool. But I think on that side of the business, again, coming from the larger companies, I'd really love to hear, how do you stand out of the pack, right? In the distribution, outside of building the personal relationship that can only go as far, right? Because it has to be a lot of other things in terms of how do you crystallize your value proposition so the distribution guys know, unless there's a bid in the street and then they call you and say, this is what I need. How do you get them to really create that value for you? Like you said, don't take the money and put it in the bank, invest the money in whatever it is, but get an ROI for the money, right? This has been always a puzzle for me that I was not yet able, and I'm not that good at puzzles. So give me the marketing answer here, because this is something I was not able to get a lot of value.
So here.
No offense to our lovely distributors in the industry.
No, it's a really great question, a really awesome question, and I love it. How do you get your distributor to work more for you, as far as like get the most out of them? You know what I mean? And the thing is that a lot of distributors have these packages that say, well, for $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000, you can get this, this, and this from us. However, one of the things that a lot of people think, oh, we'll exchange money and we'll be done. We'll be great. They'll send out a leaflet. They'll send out a thing. They'll send out blah, blah, blah. Yes, one of the relationships does have to start with the regional sales guy talking to the distributor's regional sales guy. That relationship definitely has to form, and it has to be kept up with. How you doing? You know what I mean? You have to do the whole sales networking there. You have to definitely.
Yeah, that's 101. That I agree 100%. You got to do that.
Right. However, distributors have multi-levels within their companies. They have their inside sales team. They have their tech support team. They have these two business units that definitely need a touch point. You know what I mean? For instance, a while back, I was working with a major manufacturer, and we went ahead and wanted to get more business out of a certain distributor. So what we ended up doing was, I said, let me go ahead and handle this account. Let me do this. So with their inside salesperson that was handling the account, I basically went in there, dropped the product guy. I said, I don't want the product guy in here. Because what happens is a lot of companies make the mistake of sending the product guy to train these inside salespeople or their tech support people. And you know what that training looks like? It's like, And now we have firmware 4.2 update, and this is what the product does. You can't, that'll never resonate. That'll be like, you know, glazed over deer in headlights. You're not going to get anywhere. You know what I mean? So what we did was we did an entire—
Sounds very interesting to me, actually. But yeah, okay.
You're like, that was riveting. You had me captivated. But if you go ahead and you stand in something completely different, send in the most dynamic person that you have in your company that can do a presentation. Leave all the product stuff details out. Remember, you're trying to tell the inside salespeople that have so many other products in their portfolio. It's like, here's about my product. So I went in there and did a training. I know some of the distributors who will see this, they'll know exactly who they are on this training that I did. So here's the one training that I did. Completely, some people will be like, what did you do? I went in there with this giant shock ball years ago. This thing, I had shoved like 15 batteries into this thing. It was like a hot potato, right? And I said, I'm gonna go ahead and train you guys, and I'm gonna show you a little bit about our product line. And I said, in every 5 minutes, I'm gonna take a break. And I'm gonna throw this shock ball into the audience. Whoever gets shocked gets to answer a question. It's a reward, right? They looked at me like, what? You're gonna cause us pain? So, of course, I had to ask if there was anybody who had a heart murmur or a pacemaker before we did this, right? But let me tell you something. To this day, it was the most successful training that we've ever done because it was something that was memorable. It was completely different. And they paid attention. You stop and you say, what was my nomenclature? What am I talking about? What does this product do? Why this product? And I got them to understand it at a certain level, but they paid attention because they knew that I would stop every 5 minutes and throw this thing into the audience, and they would pass it around until somebody was like, zzz, you know what I mean? And you're like, you get to answer the question. And from there, every time I went in there to train them, it was another bit and another bit and another bit. And our sales went way up based on just, hey, they got it. They liked it. They responded to it. Because you know what? And then I would go in there and be like, hey, Michelle.
So you're saying, so basically you're saying be creative, right? That's be creative. Don't be
personable.
Don't be me too. Of course.
You're gonna go in there and just do a training, you're not gonna be remembered. You know what I mean? If you do something completely different, but every time you walk in there, you remember somebody, bringing something different to people, remembering who you're seeing every time you go in there, and remember to ask about them, personal details. Going in there at least once a month to just talk to the group about your product, but don't do death by product. You know what I mean? There's a lot of manufacturers that have these kickoff events every year. And what happens is during these kickoff events, they have all their vendors present. If you have the same presentation over and over again of product, they're gonna, it's death by presentation. They're gonna walk away and they're not gonna remember what, who, product, what? You have to definitely take advantage of that face-to-face and do something different. Spiffs do work if you do them correctly. And I promise you that. Anybody who wants to know about spiffs, call me. I'll be more than happy to explain spiffs that work, spiffs that you can leverage. But again, as a dealer or integrator, take advantage of asking your distributors, like, what do you have as a program or anything that I can take advantage of marketing dollars? They'll do it. I'm working with a distributor right now that does a beautiful job at allocating dollars from major product lines, you know, and that's something you have to, worst they can do is say no. I say that to my kids all the time. The worst anybody can do is say, no, we can't do it. But if you go in there and you say, I've been doing X amount of dollars with you, can I get 1%, a 0.5%, or can I get something from you guys?
So this is, I think this is really good advice, because again, the be creative part of it and build a relationship, which relationship you always have to build. But I think the be creative is something that I have to admit I've never done. Never got in with something that will electrify my customers. But
you should try it. Don't knock.
Might be a good idea. Now let's step back, because I think there's the so recently I have a discussion with a dealer, right? And we had lunch, and he was talking. Manufacturers still come to me and ask me, what do I lead with? And he basically said, and this is one of the top integrators in the industry. He said, I don't lead with products anymore. I used to lead with products. Right now, the end users are so educated. I need to have the broadest catalog that I have, so I can, if they want X, they're gonna get X. If they want V, they're gonna get V. If they want Z, they're gonna get Z, right? And I have to just be there because the customers are, and I argue that it's not necessarily always true, right? There are dealers that lead their customers and still act as advisors, but as a sales guy, right? How do you build that loyalty? Again, I have it on the sale, but let's talk about marketing for a little. How do you build that dealer loyalty that sticks, that says, okay, today I'm going to wake up, except that's the fact that I visited at last and I gave them, and my brochure was on the table when they needed a product. So that was a reminder, right? So again, it's those things that I think are very important for people out there that are doing the milk run. Because when we look at it, most companies do not have a sales guy in every city. Some do. And a sales guy will visit a dealer or a integrator or a VAR, whatever we call them today, once a month in a good territory, and maybe sometime once a quarter, right? So how do I keep those people engaged? How do I keep them working? And again, and then going from there, I would like to go to the manufacturing side of it, because I think there is a lot of, call it ecosystem and technology partnerships that young people in the industry can utilize and really, really increase their exposure through some of those partnerships.
Yeah, no, you're right. And one of the things that you've got to keep in mind is not just about product. And I think you basically triggered this. You have to offer the tech support, the field support, and the customer support behind what you do. I mean, that's everything. What your product, not just your product's got to be reliable, but you also have to offer that as a service. You have to be spot on as that for a service. So anything that you can eliminate as a pain point to those groups of people that you have as partners or as dealers or whatever you want to call them, technology partners, you have to give them be an extension of their team. So if they need tech support in the field once the product gets deployed or anything, you have to make sure that your staff on hand knows everything about that product to be able to support it, knows how to support them in the field or offer those types of services. That's going to create loyalty. This one distributor compared to the other distributor says, yeah, we don't offer tech support, or we know it kind of, where you're like, I know I can rely on this one person. It's all about reliability and what you can do as an extension of your team, because companies do struggle with having to add number of people on their team. But dealers have to realize that if they let go of the reins a little bit and they do the right job in training the manufacturing rep firms or those distributors that are out in the field, their extension, now they've got an army out there in the field, but they have to stay on them with training. They have to stay on them with touch points. They have to be an extension of the team. They can't just be a completely different entity.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think from my experience is tech support, pre-sales and post-sales support are probably the most underrated value differentiators in the industry, right? I think most of the time, and again, I always believed in less is more, so I always had less partners, but the partners knew that when shit hits the fan, we're going to be there to support them, right? And I always said it's always, we sell software breaks, we sell hardware breaks, right? But it's how we handle the situation when things and this is something that I think is a lot of people, and that's when I speak to young salespeople, is like, never run away from a situation, right? Never put your head in the sand and think it's going to go away, because it's not. Attack it head on and make sure that you have a right team behind you. And I always knew that I had people that are smarter than me and knew the product better than me to support me when shit hits the fan. And I think that is a value differentiator that is unique. And I think that does create partner loyalty. But I think a lot of the time today, people just don't like bad news. So, and they just throw it somewhere and send an email. And I always say, pick up the phone when things go bad. picking up the phone is so much more effective than today. You have all the other tools. You have Slack, you have Asana, you have other, but manage them correctly, right? Don't let them manage you. Manage the tools and make sure you manage it and make your customers happy at the end of the day. I think that's, from my point, is what really helped develop that integrator loyalty, that partner loyalty, and long-term partnerships that you can work with for years. Because again, it's what the company stands for, right? And that's something that I think is extremely, extremely important when building a channel. I think another thing that is extremely important today for in the past, when you as a manufacturer would speak to the end user, a lot of the old generation salespeople just get freaked out. It's like, why are you talking to the customer? It's my customer, right? And I think as the industry evolves, as things evolve, SDRs come and start doing cold calling direct and other things that are going on, I think people understand that there's actually value in me talking to the end user, because I'm helping to sell the product, as long as the business model doesn't change of selling direct to the end user, which is another discussion, which is another episode. But I think there is so much to do when with that understanding that it's the people ecosystem, right? So you have your pre-sales engineers, you have your post-sale engineer from the manufacturing side that can help the integrator actually bring the deal home. And I think where I see challenges is where the integrator is hugging the customer that strong and said, "Don't talk to it's my customer. Don't talk to them." Right? Only with my permission. And that always drove me nuts, especially when you're doing large enterprise sales for large, big accounts that you need that involvement.
You're right, but that does come down to trust, because there's some companies out there that say, no, we're gonna definitely stay true to the ecosystem. We're definitely gonna do the channel. And then all of a sudden you find that they're going direct, and stuff like that gets the dealer on edge, and they basically start losing trust. And that's kind of like just the trust factor. But you're right. Dealers, manufacturers need access sometimes to that end user, especially with the latest technology going on now. I mean, the dealer can still be a part of it, you know what I'm saying, along the way, but they definitely need to make sure that we open up all lines of communication across the company, for sure, from the one end to the other end. Because you know what it is? It is, you have to use from the end user to the dealer to the installer to the manufacturer to the distributor. All of that has to be a part of it. Everybody's got to communicate, and that's super important. And you know, you even have to communicate, like you said, you can't bury your head in the sand. If you have gotchas that you find out in the field while you're installing, or gotchas while you're testing products, if you keep that quiet during an install, that could kill you. Instead of letting somebody—
Oh, yeah, for sure. Always be transparent on those things. Even if it's a very small chance, and I think I'm a big believer in crisis. How do you say it in English? Crisis. I haven't been in the US now for 4 months. I forgot my English. So basically, crisis build relationship and opportunities, right? And I think some of the largest customers I've worked with in my life, their relationship were strengthened following a crisis, following like an oh shit moment where we had something go bad, because it gives you that, if you come clean, if you don't, you're dead in the water, right? And that's, I think it's
right. And I hate it when manufacturers lie that their product's ready. You know what I mean? When they're like, oh yeah, you see this all the time at trade shows. We just came out with this, and you know that it's not going to be ready until they may launch it at ISC West, but it won't be ready until ISC. You know what I mean?
Guilty. I've done it. Guilty. But yeah, that's you got to do it.
So I think this interest is, be wary that if a product just launched, give it 8 months before it's actually really ready, especially when it launches at trade shows. I mean, that's a given. We want to be first to the market. We want to be out there, but you can't lie about a product being ready if it's not. You know, you can definitely build up to it. There's no problem putting the marketing behind it, but definitely test it. As a dealer, sometimes I see dealers selling products, and you kind of want to say to these little trunk slammers or these other companies, I'm like, did you test that? Did you actually put that in your lab and test it? Because a lot of them don't. They just want to sell it because they're going to make good margin on it. But those dealers that really take time to test their product in their lab, I don't care what their lab looks like. I don't care if it's a bedroom. As long as they test the product, then they can stand behind it and they can support it. And if I was an end user, the first thing I would say is like, have you tested that in-house? Have you seen what that looks like? You know what I mean? And it's a very important aspect of pushing product into the market, especially now with
No, absolutely. I agree. And I think, so I think for the sake of time, and I think it's, I wrote down, be creative, be honest, which is always very, as well as be useful, right? So I think trying to get some points here for, but I think the last one that I like to talk about today is how to leverage what I call the technology ecosystem in the industry, right? And it's it's how to embrace competition, right? Because when we look at it, we live in an industry that, and I've been there a million times, that on one project you may compete with a company, and on another you will work with them on a project, right? Because if we look at the manufacturer space, let's take just as an example, a Vigilon, right? An end-to-end solution. But I've seen a Vigilon installations with Access cameras. Access was probably the most open ecosystem in the world out there. So I think there's always that, how do you embrace competition, and how do you make competition something that is very useful for you in today's environment, right? Because I think where I've seen sales guys that are trying to hug everything and basically get the most revenue for them because they want to sell everything for the solution, versus building a partnership and scaling up by force of other people. The latter were more successful because they basically built scale because they had more people selling for them because they knew they're working as a partner, versus the others may have gotten one or two very big sales, but on the competition or the competition would always be worried to work with them because of the cost. And I think in our industry specifically, there's so much competition, right? If you look at because of Stan, because of OnVIF, and because of other things today, and each one of the technology partners has, if you go to like a MIPS, or if you go to the Access ACCC or one of those, there's like 5 at least. I'm going on the low number here of competitors right in the same that are doing the same thing, right? So how does a sales guy in a technology company today say, how do I build my Access relationship, as an example, or my milestone relationship, and scale and actually get value out of it? And I think that's one of the most important ecosystem understanding, and building that trust relationship through understanding that there's always going to be competition. And we have about a minute and a half to answer this, so let's do it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But to also add to that, distributors have to also learn how to cross-sell their products. There are so many different divisions across distributors as well, to the point as far as technology, how to build it. It also starts with the distribution level, understanding that the head bone connected to the neck bone, connected, I don't think there's a head bone, but the shoulder bone, the elbow bone, everything's got to be connected somehow. And that's something you have to leverage, but don't just go with what you know. But yes, leverage the technology, not the manufacturer. And the thing is that the product that performs best for you, the product that you know that when it's in the field, it performs excellent, you know that that dealer is going to go with, that dealer is going to stay with. That's where the loyalty is and the proof of performance. And then also the support that he's getting, not only from his sales guy, but from the inside sales guy, from the technology guy, from the tech support people, and from the customer service point of view, to make his job easier, to create a statement of work, pricing, things like that. So that's always going to go hand in hand. Like I said, there's a huge extension to your team that has to play a part here in this ecosystem. It's not just, here's this one thing and that's it. It's all those people play a part of that.
So I agree, but I think looking at it from the sales side, we always say sales guys, we're coin operated, right? We got to understand, basically you put coins and we move, right? That's how it works, right? So I think one of the things that I have always found useful is conveying the value. Because let's say I work with, just like make it easy, like a milestone sales guy or an Access sales guy, right? He has to understand what value does my product give him and why, because of my product, he can sell, let's say, his most expensive PTZ or his thermal camera or something to that effect. And I think that's something you gotta, and we spoke about before, it's always go back to that value proposition, go back to what, but you have to look, because a lot of people say, oh, are you working with X company? Oh yeah, we're part of the partner program. But being a part of the partner program is great because you participate in a lot of their, but for the sales guy, their regional sales guys to actually acknowledge you, and they really have to understand that by bringing you in, they will make more money, right? And they will bring their customer better value with your product, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people have to really, really understand and say, okay, I'm not just going to be that, because the technology partnership are great, and you meet them and you go to their events and you do some webinars, but most people do nothing on the webinar. They don't listen and they don't even know you exist. But then if you start understanding the key guys that you need to work with because your product fits their vertical market, and you build relationship with these guys, and again, go back to value and explain to them why by bringing you in, they will make their customer happier. And with that, the derivative of that would be that they make more money. I think that's the most important thing that I've seen in building ecosystems and building technology partnerships for the long run.
Right.
And that's, again, from the sales side, there's a lot that you can do on the marketing and co-marketing and others, but I think building that go.
Right, exactly. So shooting it over the fence.
Spend some marketing money.
And this is where marketing comes in. It's not just about sales, but it's also the marketing aspect. That marketing person department has to support their salespeople in the field, and they have to know how to leverage that distributor or that manufacturer or whomever it is that they can get the most leverage out of. Because if you're a small guy, you can leverage that big name, piggyback on that all day long for sure. So it's a combination.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer in on riding on elephants, being a small company, right? Okay. And I think again, if you can provide value, I think it's a win-win for everybody. So with that, I think we are over our time. So again, but again, I think what I like to always bring line is. With distributors, again, you're one of a million in a catalog, so be creative. Electrocute them during the presentation. It's with your customer.
I think I have to patent that.
Yeah, exactly. Be honest and useful. I think that's key. And on the sales side, just crystallize your value proposition and make people understand why and how they can better their product by using your product, by therefore having happier end users, and by that making more money.
Invest in your partners. Invest.
Absolutely. But partnership is not a one way, right? Always know it's you got to make it successful. It has to be a two-way street.
Absolutely. All right. So then next week we'll talk about how to sell to this market. How's that?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
Those who can sell do podcasts, right? So let's do it.
Exactly. So you know what? We're going to give some advice on that and see kind of how it goes. We're going to be like,
it's all good. No, it's all good.
But we definitely encourage everybody to leave comments. Let us know what they want to see next time. We'd be more than happy to bring anything to the table. Nothing's off the table. So basically anything marketing, anything sales, we're here. So definitely take advantage of it. And we'll see you guys again next week. Sound good, Yaron?
All right. Good night. Good night from Tel Aviv.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.